The big boss man said cleanup's done, signed a paper, shook hands, packed up and run. They cut the ribbon, took their prize, but the ground still burns and the river still cries. Said we got it sealed, it's locked up tight, but I see the cracks in the pale moonlight. Ain't no steel strong enough, no law so bold to hold back fire 1,000 years old. Lou Batty Burn, they said he'd heal. Monday morning they closed the deal. Doctors talked, but the paycheck spoke, and the truth went up in a cloud of smoke. They called it safe, they called it sound. Now the waste runs deep, so they cut the ground. Another grave, another name, another worker lost to the same old game. A fence with signs so bright, said stay out, it ain't alright. But kids see fences like a dare. If it's so safe, what you hiding there? Ain't no guard to watch that gate, just a name on a file and expired date. Rust on the lock, dust in the key, and the poison sleeps where the world can't see. 10,000 years, that's the plan, but a budget cuts quicker than a government hand. 5-year checks, 10-year lies, ain't nobody left to hear the cries. Tell me who gon' stand, who gon' keep, when the stewards quit and the books go cheap, when the contracts break, when the watchdog's blind. That poison won't care about the ties that bind. Bury the waste, stack it high, tell them all it's safe, wave the good years by. Move the dirt, change the sign, let another fool pay it in mind. They call it cleanup, but I call it a joke. They keep the ledgers, but they lose the hope. Ain't no fix, just changing the shirt. Ain't no cure, just moving the dirt. Leaves just old plutonium, son. And the waste don't care when the money's gone.
Amazing. So it's the sixth annual World Nuclear Day, and the sixth. Some difference since I changed my diet the weekend. For last week, I should say, but the 5th Belgian reactor now is permanently shut down. And like all the other reactors, surrounded by farms as far as you can see. Unit 2 is taken offline after 50 years of poisoning humanity. Its closure is in line with Belgium's nuclear phase-out policy. The current administration, though, is considering keeping some of these reactors online. So this is number 5 reactor shut down. It's interesting, this is the site surrounded by farmland, just like every other nuclear power plant on the entire planet. Total coincidence, I'm sure. Grown green leafy vegetables right by the fuel pool emission disease factory. There's another view, aerial view of the Dole nuclear power station. Now, if you walk down there with a camera, you'll have a couple of dozen security guards with high school education and guns come up and harass you. If you're there farming, they're liable to bring you all kinds of gifts and poison that fresh water. How much of the country's farms are dependent upon that water that's being irradiated? Kevin Blanche was talking about it last night, right? Beat me to the punchline. International Atomic Energy Agency launches nuclear fuel supply chain competition for young professionals. Competition. After 80 years, you haven't got it worked out? IAEA, of course, / United Nations. So it's fuel supply chain competition. Well, if you've never seen a fuel chain, so if you got 8 million tons of rocks and use 1.4 million tons of water, 22,000 tons of sulfur acid, you end up with 350 tons of yellow cake. You got to need 370 tons of fluoride. Depleted uranium is 250 tons. Enriched uranium is 40 tons, that's what it's all about, the fuel cycle, right? And 1 year of 1,600 megawatt EPR nuclear power station power is 8 million tons of coal. So if you burn the 8 million tons of coal, you probably get 6 years of that same power, and you wouldn't have a billion-year headache on your hand with the fuel. You got to mine this, right? So when you're mining at 1.8 million tons, so you got to use some pretty big pieces of equipment. This is uranium mining equipment. But just that whole processing, why would you bother with all this when you have geothermal on your planet? What's the point of that? It's about the fuel cycle, I guess, right? Hanford, this is one of the pictures of Hanford, they dumped the equivalent, they got 177 tanks buried in the ground, and they're spent tens of billions of dollars trying to come up with a solution to store that. 177 300,000 gallon tanks, right? They dumped 1.4 million of these 300,000 gallon tanks into the soil in 41 miles of unlined trenches. And right downhill to the Columbia River's right alongside of it, which feeds 20-something thousand farms. That's equal to an aquarium 6 feet wide, 518 feet tall, wrapped around the entire planet. It's just one incidence at one place. These barrels are already severely deteriorated. So putting them in this scenario is just the opposite of a good steward, right? The spent fuel is all over the country. Wherever the spent fuel is too, it's splitting atoms directly into the environment. It can't be contained. And one of the reasons is, there's many reasons, by the way. It's very volatile. You can never open it up once you contain it. Right? So the fuel is splitting atoms for millions of homes and businesses wherever it's to. Those atoms now there's no contaminant, they're released directly into the environment. But when you spread it out all over the country, and then you get the fuel plants and all the other stuff all over the country for nuclear, it's not really a country anymore, is it? World Nuclear Energy Day is upon us. Yay! And some trolls again today denigrating me, attacking me, right? Everybody attacks me. And so, what do you end up when you got everybody attacking you? You know, I just came in the door that time, hour ago. I got back in the house. We got a major snowstorm tonight, I guess, and then all day tomorrow. With gust up to 90 kilometers an hour. And we knew that was coming, and so I've worked hard for 2 days to get everything ready. To get the property ready, get all the equipment ready, blah, blah, blah. I even got fuel for the snowblower, fuel for the plow, fuel for the generator. We're just trying to fix that Geiger counter there, top right-hand corner. I've been out there since 9 a.m., so 12 hours. 12 hours. Everybody fucking hates me. So I live a pretty chaotic existence because I chose to be a good person. No, I'm not perfect. I'm far from perfect. I'm doing the best I can do. I've changed a lot of my bad habits. And so we can stay around longer, be a bigger pain in the ass to the nuclear industry, hopefully. The 6th Annual World Nuclear Energy. I'm just tired of everybody attacking me. I know this is never going to stop. That's the life I have now. Everybody hates me. Should the 7th Annual World Nuclear Energy Day be celebrated with a Nuremberg 2 nuke crimes trial? That was a great poll. 7th Annual is next year. So they started this Annual World Nuclear Energy Day. Nuclear Energy Day is such a strange thing, eh? Well, they're United Nations to do whatever they want. They got the money too, right? They got 195 countries will throw money at them. I really like for some of the people that are attacking me to walk a mile in my shoes. Despite my flaws, I'm actually a good person. I never was, never will be perfect. I don't know anybody else will be either, by the way. And I chose to take the road least traveled and run an educational program on the nuclear industry, which they responded in absolute vicious. Their response has been vicious ever since. 24 years later, I'm still going. What does that tell us? Despite all my flaws, despite all my Freudian, the industry likes to chop out any Freudian slips, so I'm afraid to make a mistake. But how do you not have a mistake when you're doing these difficult presentations? World Nuclear Energy Day is up on us, the 6th Annual World Nuclear Energy Day. So the nuclear industry, if you're not familiar, has spun quite a story for quite a long time now, 83 years. So they say radiation from nuclear fuel and nuclear reactors is like walking in sunshine, which of course is absurd to suggest. But 83 years is pretty convincing that each generation is regurgitating. They say it's like the granite rocks. They say too many times it's like a banana or potatoes. It's got nothing to do with that. Every nuclear power plant on top of that needs 2 dedicated gas, oil, and coal plants. So think of a reactor. It needs 1 million gallons a minute. It needs 4,500 tons a minute, each minute. It translates, so imagine how much energy it takes to move 4,500 tons, which is 1,000 liters each, 450,000 liters of water through a reactor in 1 minute. How much energy does that take? Is it like a banana or potato chip now? And so you're talking about, in 24 hours, it's 6,450,000 one-ton pickup trucks with 1,000 liters in the back of it. Try to wrap your mind around that statement. Has to go through the reactor. So they need 2 dedicated gas, oil, and coal plants. Big ones, not small ones, because there's multiple reactors, and each of them has that particular attribute. And so it's really interesting because these 2 coal, gas, and oil plants are producing more power than a nuclear reactor is. So what's the point? It's about the fuel cycle, it's about the plutonium, and it's about the perpetual releases from that site after the first year from the fuel pools. The fuel pools have no containment. The 6th annual World Nuclear Energy Day is being celebrated. How many tens of millions of dollars are they going to spend today worldwide celebrating this fake anniversary that they just created at the thin air 6 years ago? Today's the day, December the 2nd. Because that was the day Enrico Fermi discovered a chain reaction in the bleachers under the stands, because they were outcast, right? And thank goodness they were outcast, because now look what they got done to us. For 2 days now, I'm busted up. Tomorrow I got to get out and deal with snow and cold, wind. I got to try to make it till the spring so we can get out and do some research. I got the Skidoo started today, and I got a bit of fuel into it. I'm limited to everything, right? Because it's at best there's just 1 or 2 people supporting me. Our nuclear industry is going to spend tens of millions of dollars a day to celebrate the destruction of the 8 million species in humanity. They got 195 countries every year throws absurd truckloads of money at them each. It's absurd how much money they run through. History, December the 2nd marks 2 significant turning points in the advancement of nuclear energy. It's the world's first self-sustaining controlled nuclear chain reaction was achieved with the Chicago Pile, which was Enrico Fermi, right? I bet you he didn't realize that all of these dots you're looking at that's Nebraska, Wyoming, Great Falls. All of these dots are missile silos. They're in farmers' field hemorrhaging at least the tritium, because you need tritium in a nuclear weapon, which is harmless, but it makes nuclear weapons incredibly powerful. But it's harmless, if you believe that one. And you have to replenish it. They can't contain it. And tritiates all the moisture it comes into contact with. So all of these little communities and farmlands were being used as human shields by the nuclear industry for many, many decades. And they can't use the weapons. They went, when the nuclear industry, it had the secrecy during the Manhattan Project exemption from Congress and parliaments and senates and that, where the industry was an outlier, and only the regulatory agencies and the United Nations, for some bizarre reason, were given control over it. And look what they've done to you. And I'll show you how mad it's been ever since, hopefully. I can do some justice to it. No, I'm not perfect. Not like all the nuclear scientists anyway. The world's first self-sustaining controlled chain reaction, Enrico Fermi. I wake up every morning and I go outdoors and I open the door and I spit, and I pretend I'm spitting on Enrico Fermi's grave. And in the summertime, I'll always go out and pee in the same spot, like I'm pissing on Enrico Fermi's grave. I hope one day to go there and do it personally. I use a lot of parallels. I know. I'm not. I don't actually go outdoors and piss and spit on the ground. Just it's a parallel, right? It's just meant to. It's a pun, I suppose. I do a lot of that. It's a well-known routine where I'm from originally. But you always got to kind of like tell the truth after. But I kind of incorporated it into my show sometimes. So she went back to a community that's abandoned because nuclear is carbon-free, right? In Fukushima Prefecture, Japan. And she shouldn't be there. And she should shave her head, shave her eyebrows, throw away her clothes, her purse, her boots. And she should get in the shower every day and scrub until she's bleeding for a week because she's in a brutal, insidious, terrible, just a terrible nuclear wasteland. They abandoned their schools and their banks and their malls and their car dealerships, their guitar shops and supermarkets, clothing and confectionery shops, and the homes and their pets and everything, because nuclear is more important for some reason than everybody. It's more important. It takes precedence over common sense, over... They've captured your governments and captured your universities and captured your medias and every other key position by proxy. Because when you capture the university for so long, what happens? You can put people in the key positions, right? That's what they've been doing their whole history. They know they're evil. They don't have any illusions about that. They just keep everybody else that they can in that illusion that nuclear somehow is no. The nation's first commercial nuclear plant, Shippingport Atomic Power Station. This was an absurd disease factory, reached the criticality. And for 30 to 40 years, the British and Americans and the Canadians and Belgium and all kinds of countries have used our most precious and most important, our irreplaceable, and life of our planet, and this own unique world. It was over, the ocean itself has barely been explored, and they've just dumped the nuclear waste. And you can kind of see with these few pictures here the progression way back and a little bit more advanced. These 45-gallon drums, by the way, the tops and bottoms are crimped on. So as they sink, they crush, and then the crimped on top and bottoms will just let go. So before it hits the bottom, it's losing all of its payload. For there ever after, it's completely exposed to the ocean, and they're dumping it on the continental shelf, the actual nursery. And they just drop it right on anybody that objects. They got to get it off the boat. And the people wouldn't be on the boat if they knew anything about nuclear. This is the very last place they would put themselves. And because when you're this far away from the boat and it looks like that, imagine what it's like being on the deck doing that. And the British in particular, they were prolific. They had multiple ships like this that were load and go for 30 plus years. Into probably the best resource we have on the entire planet, which is our most precious resource that sustains the life of hundreds of billions of creatures. We destroyed it in just a few decades. The nuclear testing was a war, right? The radioactive fallout from the nuclear testing started that was the beginning of the epidemics of diabetes and cancers and heart, liver, lung, respiratory, pituitary, thyroid, adrenaline problems, the Alzheimer's, dementia, autism, the Down syndrome, the mass mental health. The mental health from radiation fallout is caused by the poisoning of their bodies, and they're producing more white blood cells than red blood cells, and red blood cells carry oxygen and nutrition. So what happens is you have less oxygen, so they're very irrational. And it's not their fault. They've been poisoned, but it's not recognized. There is no law against poisoning you. It's not illegal to poison you, rather, with anthropogenic man-made radiation. I talk about this a lot, right? Today, nuclear advocates, associations, and companies around the world have adopted December the 2nd. That's their day now. That's their day. It's the nuclear disease industry, disease factory machines day. That they come out and pretend that they're good people. And they're given tons of money to go out and celebrate, make a big scene, make a big dent, make sure people notice you. We'll get you up in the media. We'll get you on TV. We'll get you on the radio. We'll get you in the newspapers. We'll get you all over social media. It's your day. I get no days. The anti-nuclear people that are rational get no day. We don't get a day. We don't have 195 countries funding us, because if we did, the nuclear industry wouldn't last very long. I'd kill the nuclear industry in less than a year if I had a big foundation fund me. I'm ready. The world, unfortunately, is not. They have so many weak links that we can break that chain pretty easy. It's very humbling, right? Because sometimes you don't know if you're going to starve this month or next month, you just don't know, because you're just, I have a pension, so I can barely pay my bills, and that's been raided by the industry many months ago. So I live a pretty meager, humble life. But I'm every day I feel very privileged to come out and try to educate the population and insult the industry with the reality. Because the pro-nuclear community comes here and is looking at ways to get a dig at me, that's a big mistake for them. They're going to have to look in the mirror the next morning, and they're going to remember some of my words. And that's not going to, they're no longer going to have that free ride they've been living on, where nobody's ever held them accountable, nobody's ever looked them in the eye and told them the truth. Even though they know the truth, they live the lie. They're generation after generation after generation, and the nuclear industry's got away with the lie. Nobody's ever held them accountable. And I provide the documentation for my assertions, not because it's easy or fun, but because that's, I don't know if it's a curse, but because that's the best way to win that debate, right? Is provide the evidence so somebody else can take that evidence and win a debate too. To celebrate the positive impact of nuclear. When I read that, I was shit myself. 3 million children after Chernobyl. This is Kofi Annan. 3 million children require treatment. This is permanent because of Chernobyl. Many will die prematurely. Have you seen the children in the orphanages in Belarus and Ukraine from Chernobyl that have been abandoned? The nuclear industry won't even throw them a bone. 3 million children. Because it's like a banana and a potato chip. Walking in the sunshine, Dana. See what the nuclear groups are doing this year. And they got tens and tens of millions of dollars today worldwide at all the nuclear, pro-nuclears out there celebrating out at the restaurants. Breakfast out there for dinner and out there for big suppers, passing around big tips. Chauffeurs and taxis everywhere they go, and best hotel rooms. United Nations, though, they're private jets, and they live at the top of the food chain, man. They have 195 countries just burning money on them. That's okay. It's a couple $1 million. Who cares? You're nuclear. Nuclear can't even build a reactor now without spending $48 billion on it. And coming in a decade behind schedule. And then they're going to poison everybody. It's going to be prime farmland surrounded poison everybody for 60 more years. See what nuclear groups are doing this year on LinkedIn. They got to hide away. Not Facebook, not YouTube, not Twitter. They got to go somewhere where they feel safe, right? The focus of this year's World Nuclear Celebration Day is energizing the future and highlighting the current global excitement. What excitement? Where they're looting the investors on the dream of small modular reactor stocks and then stealing their money every few weeks. Around near-term development plans across the sector, near terms. You know, if you look up nuclear, how much nuclear power is generated every day, even the AI will it'll include the planned reactors they're going to build, who knows, in the future. The planned small modular reactors are going to build somewhere, who knows when in the future. The fusion reactors are going to build somewhere in the future. Reactors that they're currently building and hoping to have online, who knows, 5, 10, 15 years. All of that is included in their final tally in order to try to look like an investment. So, it's a total Ponzi scheme. If you look up the terminology Ponzi scheme, you'll see that's what they're doing. It's the exact same thing. They're selling stocks for small modular reactors that don't exist. And the people that are buying stocks think they exist, right? They buy into the hype. And they got endless hype. Whatever they do, they got perpetual hype. They got it all. I mean, put it down in the salt cavern and everything will be okay. So the next future generation can worry about it. The future species, if they survive, can worry about it. Last year's theme was, we are a critical mass. And so they're very focused on their propaganda. It's always about propaganda, right? The previous theme was power to the people. The last thing people need is nuclear power. It's the dirtiest technology in human history, as you'll see. A chain reaction in 2022. These people are insane. A chain reaction. Well, isn't that a chain reaction? It's a filthy industry, too, by the way. The A-10 Warthog only shoots dirty bombs. And so they have so many dirty bombs / depleted uranium rounds, which is not depleted. 35.7 million ammunitions they want to throw away because they got bigger, badder, and deadlier dirty bombs. And so these dirty bombs you're talking about, these are 12 inches. They're not tipped, they're not coated. These are pure doloram, depleted uranium, low-level radioactive material. And what they've done during so-called Gulf War, Kuwait, not much of a war, when the A-10 Warthogs are just zipping in, shooting up the Rolls Royce and the limousines full of the golds from the jewelry shops that was looted by the Ba'ath Party from Iraq, right? So Iraq went in and looted Kuwait. And when they were coming out, the A-10 Warthogs went in there and blasted them. This stuff was only supposed to be used on hardened bunkers and tanks, not on Rolls Royces and Ferraris. And so they had to bury everything right on the spot because of the depleted uranium they used there. They used around 700 tons, they acknowledge. Now, these things shoot 1.5 tons a minute, so I don't know. It might have been a lot more than that. The official number was 700 tons. And a physicist at a Japanese physicist at a Hamburg conference in Germany had done the equation on it, and it worked out to around 44,000 Nagasaki bombs of lower level radioactive fallout. There is no safe dose. When a single atom, and you put 200 million atoms on the head of a needle, you get an atom in your body's going to attack it for the rest of your life with white blood cells. Despite the fact that you put 200 million atoms on the head of a needle, you can't see it. Man-made energetic atoms. And nuclear in the neighborhood in 2021, nuclear in the neighborhood, which is like the last place you want to live. Like they are so disconnected and they're so fixated on propaganda that every time, this is the sixth year now, and the theme of the inaugural event in 2020, right, that's before they allegedly got all the fuel at a reactor 3's fuel pool, which didn't exist, honored the commitment of the people in the nuclear sector, honored the commitment of the people in the nuclear sector. That was the original 2020, the year of nuclear. Each year, December the 2nd, we got to listen to this. From Rwanda to Spain to the United States and beyond, today marks a day to reflect on the progress we've made so far and the progress we're striving for tomorrow. As whoever writes this stuff, can you imagine how weird they actually are in real life? Watch the world's largest, this is their official website, watch the world's largest nuclear energy celebration, global events, workshops, tens of millions of dollars are spent today to celebrate the destruction of the species and the gene pool, the oceans, the fresh water, the soil, the plants, the trees, the flowers, the annihilation of every species on the planet from 83 years of emissions. It never goes away, it never stops pulsing energy at the speed of light, attacks everything with replicating cells. So sometimes I don't know how I don't crack up, how I don't just lose my friggin' mind, how I don't just... I don't know. I busted the shit at myself again today, like yesterday, and I'm busted up. 9 o'clock, I'm like, I gotta fire up the studio. I gotta get in the studio. I gotta do a show at 10 o'clock. Got a snowstorm tomorrow. And I don't care. I don't even know if I'm gonna go try to deal with it. I'm busted up so much now, I don't even care. I got everything ready, but I'm not ready. I'm too busted up. At least 3 weeks ago, I couldn't do anything like that. So we started an exercise program every day. We started sauna every day. We started the red light therapy every day, 7 days a week. No excuses. I gotta get myself healthy so I can stay around a little bit longer, even if it's just for an extra day to kick the shit out of the nuclear industry. I had always hoped I would inspire other bloggers to pick up the baton and come out and... Because the nuclear industry can't handle criticism. World Nuclear Energy Day, I forgot to put that in my comment section or my description. Energizing the future. Like, they love their hashtags, eh? Let me put that in the comments section for everybody. Hello, everybody. Got a really good show, I hope, tonight. Just give me a second here. World Nuclear Energy Day. I'm screwing up, eh? Because I got too many screens here. Okay, we'll click that. That World Nuclear Energy Day is now in the comments section, and at Energizing the Future. Blah, 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 blah. Because you got a habit of putting spaces in, right? Energize in the future. There we go. We got both of them in the comment section. Hi, Dana. Kevin Blatt says he pissed on Edward Teller. You have no idea how jealous I actually am. Let me see here. Let's keep her going for a minute. I'm going to give Kevin, I'm going to give you another call, just for like 10 minutes or something, and get you to put the nuclear industry on blast about how rotten they've been now for 83 years on this very important day in their sadistic little world. Global events, workshops, panel discussions, dinner meetings. Oh man, they're going to spend tens of millions of dollars worldwide today to promote this industry. And it's basically a great big party for the nuclear industry. It's a day where the nuclear industry is encouraged to go out there and spend money in the community, get noticed, and it's all coming out of the taxpayer's pocket ultimately. And special performances focused on nuclear energy covering educational outreach, emerging green technologies and innovative thinking. Like nuclear is the furthest thing from green. And restore the world's ecosystem. Nuclear! If nothing else, they got balls. You got to give them credit. Celebrate the 83rd anniversary of the chain reaction from Enrico Fermi, 1942. I'm going to give Kevin a call here in a second. I'll get everything set up first. And let's listen to Kevin's version of what the nuclear industry has done for us. Get some truth out there for a change. I think we should be okay. Mic check. Check. Let me get set up here first. Hopefully Kevin can talk. It's hard to say because he could be busy, but just in case, we're going to because Kevin's good for putting the nuclear industry on blast. I guarantee you that. And if you got sensitive ears, I apologize. He's probably not going to be very polite. I don't think he should be. Here we go, Kevin. I'm calling on the count of 10. Give you a chance there to get ready. There we go. Hopefully he's available.
Hello.
Hello, Kevin. It's Dana. Are you busy right now?
No, I'm free.
So today is the World Nuclear Energy Day.
The 7th anniversary. I didn't even know about that till I heard you say it. I didn't know there was such a thing.
Yeah,
you
sure
gotta be
is.
shitting me. Should be the 80th anniversary of the nuclear death day. Oh yeah, that's August 6th and 9th.
And
that'll be 80 years this year.
yeah, 80 hard. Well, it's allegedly 83 years. But they're not counting. Obviously,
Yeah.
Obviously, they're not.
Yeah, they're not counting Trinity.
They're not counting Marie Curie. The radon. What they done to everybody with the radon.
So
Go ahead.
Madame Curie. A lot of people don't know this about Madame Curie. Of course, she's from Ukraine. That's her married name. So Pierre Curie, her husband, the French biologist, he was like, no, this stuff does give you cancer. And what happened to him? He supposedly slipped in the rain and the horse and cart ran over his head.
That's pretty convenient.
Yeah. So Marjorie was a big nuclear denier, of course. She said, no, it doesn't hurt you, it doesn't hurt you. And like I said, I think she'd better have her arms and her hands back. But,
she can't wipe her own arse, but she has the Nobel Prize.
So, yeah. I mean, so you think about those early nuclear physicists, they were all in for nuclear. So that was clear back to what, 1905, 1906? So it isn't like they didn't know in the 30s when they were putting this thing together. They knew it was bad then.
Yeah.
Einstein was going crazy about it.
I mean, that was under the radon, right? You know, when you think about nuclear, that's not really something you're really concerned about. But I mean,
no, like you said, Fermi, you know, with the pile in Chicago, you know,
Enrico Fermi, yeah.
Yeah. I always say, you know, Enrico Fermi, you look at picture Jeff Bezos and Enrico Fermi, you tell me those two don't look exactly alike. I've always said I think he's his real father.
Holy cow,
they
right?
look exactly the same.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. So, yeah, nuclear day. But
so if you had Enrico Fermi in front of you right now, and you had him by that cheap yellow tie that he wears around his neck, and you pull him up really close to your face, what would you say to him, Kevin? That's a loaded question.
Yeah, that is a loaded question, because Fermi wasn't even the worst of them.
That's true.
You know, the worst
good point,
of them, Fermi, even Leo Lazar. My grandpa used to live in La Jolla next to Leo. Leo wrote the letter, Lazar, not Einstein. Einstein didn't write the letter. Edward Teller and Leo Lazar drove to Long Island and begged him to sign this letter to give to FDR to open the Manhattan Project. And then Einstein wouldn't do it. And finally, he did sign it. And when they found out that the Germans didn't have a baby never born mother pregnant, even Leo backed out. But I remember my grandpa told me, because my grandpa lived next door to him, he said he was the most remorseful, freaking saddest person he ever met.
Is that right, eh? Well.
Yeah, a lot of those guys were, but they all backed out of the Manhattan Project, all of them. All of them. When they found out the Germans didn't have it and weren't interested, and that was in 43, the only one that stayed in it was Oppenheimer and Teller. Oppenheimer and Teller stayed in. And the rest of them all says, fuck you, we're out. We're doing this. We don't need to. There's no need.
And Teller chased Oppenheimer out, right? Took his position. Yeah, go ahead, Kevin. I'm sorry.
Teller lived to be clear. Teller lived to be an old man. I think he died in 2003 or 14. He's buried in Stanford, by the way. They keep it secret. I know where the fuck he's buried. Fucking low. I remember he wanted to do nuclear Star Wars like Trump's brought back, but he wanted to use nuclear to build dams, nuclear roads. I mean, he was a fucking monster. Evil of the evil. So all those Manhattan Project guys, and then, you know, we were talking about Lauren Noé recently.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I found out that she did pass away.
Wow.
And no media, no anything, but she had a cafe in Berkeley, right near the university, right near her house, and she was the famous anti-nuclear. And all those people, you know, they worked for Livermore, they worked for Cal Berkeley, they were all right there. So
yeah, that was the breeding grounds. That's the breeding grounds.
Yeah, that's where they were. Well, that's where they put it together.
For all the national laboratories, that's the breeding ground for these little inbreeds. Yeah. Go ahead, Kevin.
They're bringing Star Powered Earth, their logo. I used to protest there all the time, but those guys used to show up. So Frank Oppenheimer, I was a real young dude. I used to hang around there. He showed up. And, you know, gave a little speech. I remember Ron Manet talking to him, and fucker was in tears, crying. But, you know, that was Frank. But, you know, Robert, he died young of cancer. Fermi died really young. And so, you know, and then I'll tell you a great story about the Manhattan Project. So the Lawrence Livermore Lab is named after Lawrence, the Cal Berkeley nuclear physicist. His grandson used to speak right after me in all those hearings.
Yeah.
Every time. You think I used to go off? You should have heard him. He would just rip them all. He knew them all personally from when he was a little boy. He would call his old grandfather every name in the book. It would go crazy.
I love people like that. That's awesome.
But, you know, after they dropped the bombs, you know, then they had carte blanche to go crazy. They took over Japan, built 54 reactors there, you know. But Then they had carte blanche to just go nuclear everything.
Yeah, he did
You know,
too.
the propaganda then was bigger than it even is now.
Oh, yeah, no, it was, people don't know.
Remember, they were going to have uranium toothpaste, uranium nuclear makeup,
Radium soap,
uranium.
They had it all. There was the, they done it with radium, right? But
Yeah.
you got a lot. They all got sued out of existence. Thank goodness.
Well, you put up that graph tonight, which is really an important graph. A lot of people don't listen. Every time I tell everybody that's an anti-nuclear, anytime you get an argument with a pro-nuclear, nuclear energy,
Yeah.
just ask them. How do you get uranium? We don't use uranium-238 from the Earth. We don't use that. We use uranium-235.
That's right.
So they have to take 238, and you have to centrifuge it, hex gas is spent. So you just ask them, tell me how you use the centrifuge process. How do you get uranium-238 from 235? It leaves a 98% byproduct. They hex gas it. They spin it, and then, they strike the okay. When they spin it, and we don't split atoms, we smash them together, we collide them, and when they burst, it creates all these radioisotopes, including plutonium.
Yeah.
Hundreds of them we don't even know what the fuck they are, and their daughters.
Oh, that's fact.
So,
yeah.
And so people don't know that. And in order to have a nuclear bomb, you have to have nuclear energy.
Yeah, well, that's what it's all about. The fuel cycle, right?
Yeah. It is
And the fuel becomes, for people not familiar, the fuel becomes a perpetual machine where it's producing these isotopes, and they're able to extrapolate the ones they want, and that's what it was all about.
Yeah, and then they move it into the industrial military complex. I mean,
power is just a byproduct, right, Kevin? Power is a byproduct. Go ahead, Kevin. I'm sorry.
So depleted uranium. What do you think depleted uranium is? And they use it. You know who the most evil fucker was on using depleted uranium? Depleted uranium comes from nuclear energy reactors.
It's evil, man.
And they use them in weapons. They use them in militias.
Yeah.
Of course, Israel uses them all over Palestine, but Dick Cheney used them all over Iraq, including they sprayed DU all over their own men in Fallujah.
Well, Basra, 80% of the women had congenital malformations, and the children, they didn't even look like kids. And so they all started taking birth control so they wouldn't have any more babies. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Kevin.
They carpet bombed Iraq with depleted uranium, and,
that's a fact, yeah.
They're doing it they've been doing it to Palestine for years.
Yep. The 155 millimeters is just one of them, right? That's got a 900-foot kill ratio, and so everything is contaminated.
So every byproduct, everything that comes from these, it all starts at nuclear energy.
Yep.
I mean, nuclear energy is the mask for all this evil, this sick evil. All comes derived
it really
from
is.
energy.
It really is. Yeah. If you got rid of nuclear power plants, you get rid of everything else eventually.
Yeah. Okay.
Go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, I got to take my grandson to soccer.
Okay, yeah.
But no, I'm good. We got a minute. But yeah, so
keep going.
I'm thinking about it today. Because everybody, the whole propaganda machine is so insane, and the sheep all believe the shit. They're that stupid. But the bottom line is they ain't building one single nuclear reactor.
They ain't doing nothing. They ain't doing jack and shit. That's a great point. There is no nuclear renaissance, that's for sure.
No, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
And like you said,
yeah.
I mean, you put out the numbers on how much solar we're pumping out
It's crazy.
Well,
in 3 years, over half the total consumption of energy on the planet has been produced in just solar. So nuclear is panicking.
Nuclear's dead. Nuclear energy is dead.
And
like
they're
you
going
said,
to take us with them.
Yeah. So they're going all out with their propaganda bullshit. But there's a lot of people getting filthy, stinking rich. Yeah. I saw Trump gave out another $800 billion or $8 billion to. And $800 million to one startup company today.
Desperation.
It's all insider trading too. They all make a lot of money looting the freaking country on the way out.
100%.
Some sheep are just handing it over.
Yeah.
Hand over fist. But the bottom line, they can have all their fucking money. Let them have all their money. They ain't building on their. I mean, you're gonna look back. We'll be dead and gone, you and I. But people will look back, 20 years from now and say, "Fuck, look at these two fucking guys. Look at all the fucking legendary work they did." And they were right the whole time. But right now, we're up against such a propaganda machine that everybody doubts everything. They doubt the reality. They doubt the truth because they're all in it. It reminds me a lot of Saddam has had weapons of mass destruction, that whole propaganda that went on in Iraq and Afghanistan. It really reminds me a lot of that. And people bought all in and, gave up their firstborn. Life, liberty, firstborn.
Yeah.
For a fucking total lie. And everybody knew it was a lie. That's what nuclear is right now.
It's worked as long as they could remember, but now people are getting smarter. They're able to look up information on their own. The laws have to be more extravagant, right?
Yeah.
And look how they're looting the stockholders for the small modular reactors. Go ahead, Kevin.
There's a guy on the internet out there who keeps sending me this fucking idiot's videos saying that all the spent fuel in the world was spent in that one swimming pool. I'm like, you stupid fucker. I says, Fukushima alone comes right up and tells you, TEPCO, we have 880 tons of it. And that's one reactor.
It's disgusting. Every time I hear that, I'm disgusted with these people. But that's the law. They've been telling for decades and decades and decades. The exact same law every year.
Yeah. And people just regurgitate it. And then academia is so captured, and they've got a hold of academia so radically that these professors don't lie. And they go on because they know that's where the bread's butter.
Yeah.
If they rock the boat, they're going to have it like me, blackballs.
I remember this one kid, and he was really smart, and he was saying, no, well, Fukushima was doing that. All the media would come out and beat him up, and they would show us, Dana. And I was like, he was just naive. See, he bought into the thing.
I was a professor at the number one school in the country, back in the day, and I started taking on the nuclear industry. I remember Clyde Cooley telling me, Kevin, you keep fighting, they're going to go after you. Of course, then they whack you, you drop dead.
Yeah.
But I knew it. I knew that, and I'm like, fuck them. But, because this is the university that I'm at, Weber State is nuclear U. That's General Electric. I mean, Utah Construction built all these nuclear reactors, and they merged with GE in 1975. So it's the university that the nuclear cartel built, literally. So I'm inside the belly of the beast. I mean, I went to the Wattis School. Wattis was the CEO of GE, and these houses right around the corner from mine. And, of course, he died of leukemia. These fools are willing to kill themselves. But with all the information and, like you said, the internet and everything that's out there and the reality of Fukushima, part of me was happy when Fukushima happened. Part of me was really happy. I'm like, it's over. They're done.
Yeah, it looked that way.
I look back on it now. That is what killed it. And, but I didn't realize they'd get the pork and the propaganda, and they'd get the taxpayers to, and, Congress would just keep funding the bloody. They started going state by state because we were knocking them all down. And I was in New York when Status King Cuomo got the bell out because they were taking them they were going house to house, state to state, and it wasn't working. And then they got the one in New York, and I knew right then, look, here we go. Once New York, they got the $7.6 billion. They started going house to house, state to state. And I used to say they're going to have a bake sale at your local PTA.
They can pull the money out of anywhere. Go ahead, Kevin. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so all the money and the pork just started to flow. But the bottom line is that's all it is money and pork.
Yeah.
I mean, they were supposed to have 24 small SMRs right here by 2019, and NuScale ripped us off $1 billion right here in Utah. Ratepayers and taxpayers, and the sheep are too stupid.
Yeah, they're being sued in a class action lawsuit.
By the shareholders.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but still, they've made so much money.
Oh, they did.
They pumped the dumps.
It was crazy.
Same with Sam Altman. Sam Altman raised $20 billion.
Without no product, no reactors.
And the SEC under the Trump administration, because Trump's all in, him and his kids are all in on these nuclear stocks now.
Oh, the Department of Energy, man, is very powerful.
Well, the Department of Energy used to be called the Department of Atomic. And the original chair of the Department of Atomic was none other than Jeff Bezos' grandpa.
Wow.
Jeff Bezos, his real last name is not Bezos. He was born at Los Alamos. His mother's father was the original Department of Atomic, which evolved into the Department of Energy. It used to be called the Department of Atomic, including the Army Corps engineers came out of the Department of Atomic also. That's why they're so evil and looters and liars. So they've had 80 years of knowing how to rip off taxpayers.
They're the best. They're the absolute best at it. They hire the lobbyists in order to make sure.
I used to be in D.C. Like when I'm in the Utah House fighting in there, you should see it. It's me against teams of attorneys.
Yeah, lobbyists. Yeah.
Oh, you wouldn't believe it.
Professional.
You wouldn't believe it. Even in D.C. when I used to lobby there, Yeah. Yeah. No, I gotta go. Okay.
Okay, buddy.
Yeah, I was just calling. Let's go. Okay. All right. Thanks, Dan.
Okay, thanks for
Okay, bye.
for the input. Take care, Kevin. Yeah, awesome,
Okay,
man.
all right,
Awesome.
bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye. Kevin Blanche. Kevin will tell you a few things about the industry that will go on for... Kevin will sit there and talk for a month straight and how evil this industry actually is and the proof that he's got, the evidence. Got an incredible memory on top of that, right? Incredible recall. I'm so busted up. That was perfect. A little break there that time. Got some great stuff. So what have nuclear done for you besides destroy your future? It destroyed everything about you, all the cells, the DNA, the chromosomes in every species. This industry doesn't deserve to exist, right? And I'm doing the best I can on my side of it. It's a lonely battle. But the persistence is what helps, right? So this is their site, their World Nuclear Energy Day site, Australia 2025 celebration webinar. I'm going to have to go watch that, unfortunately. Puke stuff. Power the planet, sustain our future. But they're not doing that. In 2023, there was 360 gigawatts of solar came online in 12 months. In 2024, last year, was 660 gigawatts. And this year, they're expecting 924 gigawatts of just solar. We're only talking solar. We're not talking all of the other renewables. So if you look at this trend, in about 3 years, you're going to surpass all gas, all coal, and nuclear worldwide combined with just solar power. And there is storage, all kinds of incredible, easy storage. Like sand will store energy, 700 degree Fahrenheit temperature for weeks. And lava rocks from volcanoes are available worldwide. You can have, big container ships going out there and picking up these sliced up solar storage energy. It's not anything a battery can do for storage when it comes to these huge energy projects. Lava rocks and sand can do way better for way longer, way more effectively. It's just this industry has now taken over all of our governments in at least 195 countries. UN, who's not accountable to anybody. They can't be held accountable. They have they have immunity worldwide. Gave themselves immunity, and 195 countries voted to give them immunity, so they can never be held accountable. So I say in the future there'll be a lot of generations of assassins being born that'll be out hunting these people that have caused this to our planet. Or it will be like a lot of species will just slip away because this industry, the big fear is we'll find another planet with 8 million species on it, and the first thing to do is build a reactor there, and that'll start the downfall of the species. The permanent annihilation of all species. So is that Toronto Towers or something, which is one of the hubs here in Canada. The U.S. Senate had they had a huge day to promote the nuclear industry, to give thanks for the disease factory that it actually is. World Nuclear Energy Day. That's probably the saddest day in human history each year, is that this industry is able to promote itself as if it has some redeeming qualities when it's the Achilles heel of every species. The inspiring story of the Iowa chemist who saved the Manhattan Project. I definitely want to go piss on his grave one of these days. World Nuclear Energy Day, '02, and look at farmland. Why is every nuclear power plant surrounded? Why is every nuclear fuel pool surrounded by farms? Because you can't contain the emissions, and it's a 2 for 1. They poison you in the supermarkets far, far away. People will eventually come to the realization that the worst thing on the planet is nuclear. It's by far, it's the biggest threat to everything with replicating cells. I apologize to everybody. I'm not myself tonight. After yesterday and the day, I'm busted up, demoralized, ran into the ground. I'm doing the best I can because I got no options but to do everything myself. When the nuclear industry will hire thousands of people to do whatever they want, money just appears from 195 countries. It was the Senate Resolution 199, session of 2025, dedicated to the nuclear industry. Pennsylvania celebrated the World's Nuclear Energy Day 2025 with floor resolution. All over the world, people are celebrating World Nuclear Energy Day. No greater celebration in this Commonwealth of Pennsylvania senatorial recognition on December 2nd as the World Nuclear Energy Day throughout Pennsylvania. So imagine how much power and influence you have to in order to take an industry and give it that kind of a prominence. Congratulations to all involved who made this happen with millions and millions and millions of taxpayers' money, who sold out their countries for a meager living. Recognizing the World Nuclear Energy Day in Pennsylvania, Enrico Fermi and his team achieved a historical death sentence for humanity and the 8 million species. And this assertion that nuclear energy provides nearly 50% of the carbon-free electricity generated in the United States, what kind of batshit crazy lunatic assertion is that? All these communities got carbon-free. They can't drink the water no more. The emissions from the processing, the fuel processing, is hideous. These people died that day at Fukushima. He died that day. Those 3 people there, they died that day in their paper suits. They're spraying reagents on fuel particulates at a multiple nuclear meltdown site. These are not academics or scientists or journalists or college educated, or these are homeless and destitute and victims of society. And they most likely will not live to see the end of that day. And they'll be incinerated, so you can't test their body for radiation. Every one of them are incinerated. This industry has spent its entire history figuring out how to poison all your water tables. I mean, Japan picked up 30 million one-ton bags in just 3% of the Fukushima prefecture. But the food was banned by 55 countries in 14 prefectures, the big prefectures, which is over half the country. Because you can't go back to the graveyards to visit your loved ones. They let them go back. They let them go back to the graveyards to visit their loved ones. Why would you do that? Because you don't know any better, see? Well, I mean, these are one-ton bags of radioactive fallout behind them. Thousands and thousands of them. Well, the victims wanted to go back and visit their loved ones in the graveyards, and I can understand it, but you can't do that. Nuclear will take that opportunity to destroy your health. Everybody in the nuclear industry, that's their routine right there. Can you give me a hand? You give me a hand and they stab you in the back. That's the nuclear industry. It's what it does. The sad part is we need 1,000 people doing what I'm doing. We need the world to wake up and hold this industry. This industry needs to be held accountable. Suggesting 50% of the nuclear, you need 2 gas, oil, and coal plants just to run the site. How can you even, you're powering 1 million homes and businesses, suggest this is carbon free? It's total fantasy. It's an absurd fantasy. It's a blatant lie. It's nuclear. It has no redeeming qualities whatsoever. The nuclear sector of the United States directly employs 70,000 people in high-quality jobs. So what? Geothermal would only employ about 7,000 people, and it would produce more energy. And you don't have to spend $100 million a year on each site doing maintenance with precious metals and resources that can be never reclaimed because they're bombarded with neutrons. What's the point if it destroys everything? And it's responsible for more than 250,000 secondary jobs. You know, the homeless and destitute and the victims of society that they use for the dirty jobs and then dies after. You see, for every 100 nuclear power plant jobs, another 66 jobs are created in the local community. If it was a geothermal site, it'd only be 10 jobs. Right? It wouldn't be a burden to your resources, to your water, to your air, to your lakes and streams and estuaries and rivers and communities. That's what nuclear is. Nuclear energy plays a key role in the national security of the United States because the nuclear energy fuel is used to produce bombs. Right? It's all about the fuel cycle. Once you take it out, it's a perpetual disease factory. The fuel is always splitting atoms, and you can't contain it. They're released into the environment, and they'll go and attack anything with a replicating cell for millions of years. It's not your friend. It's a mortal enemy of every species on the planet, and we're the only species that can speak for them species. And it's a tough gig, right? Doing what I do it's a very tough gig, right? Most people would be happy if you done 1 show a week. I do 5 shows a week in desperation. I take 2 days off so the people that follow me regularly can have 2 days off. Not because I want 2 days off. I used to do it 7 days a week, every week. If I wasn't out on the ocean doing field studies and research projects, if I got home off the ocean after 4 or 5 months on the ocean, without coming home, straight, doing species counts, lost in 27,000 islands with no species left, heartbroken, demoralized. When I get home, I'm just fire up the studio and do a show that night and get in the nuclear industry's face. And every day till I head back out again. Not because I'm popular or a celebrity, but because desperation. When you see an extinction event with your own eyes, it mentally hurts you, right, in many different ways, and that is manifested now many times in my life, those research expeditions, right? That haunts me. It haunts me. Not just when I'm sleeping or when I wake up or moments during the day, it haunts me. And it drives me to do what I'm doing now, to come out and rally common, good people. The people that follow my kind of documentation are the 1 in a million people. They're the best. They're the most caring people imaginable. And they have their own issues. They have their own problems. They have their own struggles. But we can all agree on one thing: this industry has pissed us off. One of the least expensive sources of baseload power generation worldwide. What are they talking about? It's the most resource-intensive industry in human history. It's the most expensive resource. You need 2 gas, oil, and coal plants. I'd like to see your electric bill for 1 year versus how much energy you're producing. Because you can't run on their own power, and they need absurd, sickening amount of power. Let's just look at their history. McAllister's Army munition facilities. There's over 1,000 buildings. All they make is Dolram, depleted uranium, dirty bombs. Depleted uranium, low-level radioactive material. And they're prolific. Radioactive cleanup at Idaho nuclear work site is working. What are you talking about is working? You poisoned the entire environment for 60 plus years, non-stop, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week from the fuel pools. You don't clean that up. You can't claw that back. You can't put that genie back in the bottle. Andreev Bay cleanup. So this was an abandoned fuel site for nuclear submarines from the Soviet Union in the middle of nowhere, which one of the most pristine environments on the planet, where the fuel was left outdoors. The fuel pools were abandoned and left outdoors with a steady water supply running into them. But it means all the atoms or antipagetic isotopes are released directly into the environment from the fuels. It's like, it's so insidious, it's so mind-boggling. Just this thing alone, this one event, right? The nuclear industry should have been closed down worldwide because this was allowed to happen. They'll never clean the whole thing up because there's fuel in the bottom of those pools that have been there for so long. Origin and age of ongoing radioactive contamination of soil near La Hague reprocessing plant. Now, they have 500 security guards there to keep you from finding this stuff. Plutonium, americium, curium, strontium. Stillbirths among offspring of male radiation workers at Sellafield nuclear reprocessing plant. How about United Kingdom itself? Child cancers around nuclear fuel reprocessing plants. They were trying to blame it on the common flu in one of their studies that was peer-reviewed, but is absurd to even suggest could be real. The distribution of 129. And it turns out the 129, which is with a 15 million year half-life, iodine, is released and what they call diluted. You can't dilute it, you just spread it out. You can't destroy it. You can't burn it in an incinerator and get rid of it. The most powerful nuclear detonation ever carried out. This was a nuclear war in a container that fits inside of a big jet. And it's equal to 4,000 Nagasaki bombs going off at one time. The radioactive fallout is the same. It actually took the air and the moisture in the air and atomized and aerosoled that and weaponized that. Like the clouds would be weaponized. It's the radioactive fallout from this was absurd. It's a 50 megaton, 50,000 kilotons. Nagasaki was like 15, 16 kiloton, for instance. This was 50,000 kilotons. This was just stupid. It was just, this will take out something like, will do damage for 600 square miles or something. Who knows what they've set off that they haven't acknowledged? This was kept secret for a very long time. This was a nuclear war where you poisoned the whole planet. Oh, I'm sorry, this is Castle Bravo. This was 1,000 Nagasakis. I'm talking instead of looking at the screen. We'll get to that one in a minute. 7,000 square miles. It was actually 5,000 square miles was a lethal dose. The Bikini Atolls right now is 1 million square kilometers. It's too radioactive to be habitable. And that's one of the nurseries of our planet. Right? We destroyed all the tropical paradises for shitty nuclear. This was the one I was talking about earlier. This was 4,000 Nagasaki bombs. The Castle Bravo was 1,000 Nagasaki's. And by the way, yeah, that was brutal. I think I was like kind of looking at that picture and not realizing what I had done. My apologies. Declassified Russia footage of the largest nuclear bomb ever tested, which was 50 kilotons, 50 megatons, 50,000 kilotons. The shockwave was so big, in fact, that it even hit the bomber itself, which was more than 75 miles away at that point. It was so powerful, it actually prevented the subsequent 5-mile wide fireball from even touching the ground, and the mushroom cloud reached 42 miles into the air, 7 times higher than ever. It's visible from 460 miles away. And people in Norway and Finland even reported feeling a blast of shattered windows. The radioactive fallout was hideous. This place here had 350 nuclear bombs and ongoing suffering in Australia and the Pacific. You know, they blew up Christmas Island. They blew up Montebello Maralinga. I can't remember which one is an island. Montebello, right? Yeah. And they blew up the French Polynesian Islands. The French did. Which was equal to a Nagasaki bomb a week or something, or a day, I can't remember, for 12 years. Released into the environment. And they call that testing. That's a nuclear war. You can't call nuclear testing when it's a nuclear war, when it's the same bomb, the same radioactive fallout, and the radiation wipes out the species in increments for many decades after. And so they study sex ratios of species in humans, mostly humans, but it's applicable to all the species. So what happens is you end up with, if there's big poison, they were noticing you have more males and females being born. So this is what they mean by sex ratio studies. And this is very helpful, apparently, for the industry, because this is one of the first studies they're going to do after a nuclear event, is a sex ratio study. A brutal censorship last night's show. Last night's show was a fantastic show. Why you should sue your local nuclear power plants. That was a good show. And the show before that was really just heartbreaking, where all the whales are emaciated. Nuclear industry has broken the food chain, right? Especially with Fukushima in the equation. They broke the food chain big time. Just bear with me here. Where's that picture? I fixed it. Yeah. So these were all this year. The 2 top pictures were this month, or last month, November. The gray whale, top right straight above me up there, is supposed to be 88,000 pounds. Now it's maybe 5,000 pounds. And then the prize whale to your left is the same scenario, where we've never seen nothing like it. These humpback whales, 2 different ones there, they came ashore live, and the emaciation is absurd. Not as bad as the 2 top ones, but they are really just as absurd. So it takes a couple of years of not finding any food to eat all the fat, all the blubber, all the muscles was used up. Because the whale species are not designed to have this happen to them, right? Huge animals, and they have, they eat the microscopic animals and the abundant creatures, and they're missing. That's the basis of the food chain, the oxygen chain, the carbon sequestration chain. And so these types of pictures means that's the end of it for our planet now. That signifies the end of our planet. And unfortunately, Like the radioactive fallout just from Japan, this is the French government, this is 23 days of radioactive fallout. Of 1 million to 10 million atoms of cesium-137 per cubic meter of air. French government. We launched research expeditions for 6 years, right? You know, build this whole operation was brutal. Put it together, get everything working, get out and do 4 to 5 months a year on the ocean. It seems like just a nightmare every time I look at it. The species to your left now are exterminated, for sure. And the pictures behind me are my research expeditions. I went back for 5 extra years to see if the species to your left recovered, and they didn't recover. They're gone. They're permanently gone now. The species to the left are exterminated. I should never be able to go on the beach. I used to pick 20,000 of those red, purple sea urchins each day, the 3-inch ones for the Japanese, by the way. It was worth $1,400, I think it was, a kilogram of the reproductive organs. They ate what's known as uni. So the species to your left are exterminated because of the nuclear industry. They're exterminated. They're permanently gone now. And they have the arrogance and the hubris and to go out and suggest that nuclear is a solution. And they knew this was going to happen. That's the crazy thing about the story is the nuclear industry, the International Atomic Energy Agency, ERPA, UNSCLEAR, the IPRC, you know, UN, all of them are aware that this was going to happen. And they built the reactors on tectonic plates, 70 kilometers, less than 70 kilometers from known fractures, active tectonic plate fractures. With a 3,000-year history of tsunamis. So they knew it was going to happen. They knew the prevailing winds would immediately cover North America, and I mean saturate it with radioactive fallout, and then the entire world. Right? They knew this was coming. Species to your left are exterminated. And so the reason people would go up to the 27,000 islands where I was doing the research was to see the species, not to... And there was 20,000 insects at the high tide line. They're gone too. And the industry doesn't care. It's incapable of being rational. I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. So there's the Shika nuclear power plant. There's the Niigata, Japan nuclear plant they're going to open. That plant there is located where that arrow is to over there. And that dotted line you see in that over there is the tectonic plates, the Eurasian plate, the North American plate, which ruptured after almost 3,500, 4,000 years and wrecked the entire Noto Peninsula. It did cause 6,500 or 6,700 homes and businesses to be destroyed by liquefaction in Niigata nuclear power plant around that area in Japan. So why, oh goodness gracious, knowing there's a fracture, a fault line that is ruptured, why would you go ahead and open a nuclear power plant there? Because the industry just, it loves that. It's so when you look at this picture here, this is some of the media, this is some of the big media, pretending they're 150 feet above the stump to your left of Reactor 4 at Fukushima. So they have this big party now where it's World Nuclear Day, and they're not doing it. Like, these species deserve better. The food chain was broken because of the nuclear industry, and this, in a few years, they're going to be, all of them will be gone. All of them are emaciated for the last number of years that we're finding. The media is out there trying to blame it on your tin cans, your pop bottles, your cardboard, and then blaming you, your carbon footprint, which was a public relation scam by BP Oil, or your net zero, which is a scam by Miles Allen, which was gobbled up by United Nations and then weaponized against you. The Keystone disaster, the largest nuclear disaster you never heard of. The nuclear industry has so many skeletons in their closets, it's amazing they would show their face in public. It's amazing. And they have so much money thrown at them. It's absurd. Look Britain's nuclear veterans in the eye, Prime Minister, and tell them they're imagining that they got sick from radioactive. And Boris Johnson hasn't stopped being evil a single second. One of the last things he's done was moved all restrictions on the nuclear wasteland for the entire population of the United Kingdom. But 3 years before he done that, he removed the restrictions in Fukushima Prefecture for baby food and cereal, which is what children eat, right? Cereal and baby food. And 3 years later, he removed the restrictions for the adults. Think about how evil you got to be to do that one. Think about the fact that that's an agenda. That's a blatant agenda. And that's blatant contempt. And then I bring in millions of invaders because everybody's getting sick from the radioactive poisoned food they were fed. Shocking state of the world's riskiest nuclear waste site. Leaking silos. They have fuel pools that are outdoors. They don't even know what's in it. It's been abandoned for 50 or 60 years because it's too hot to be around. And now the current generation is trying to mitigate it, don't have a clue what's in it. And as usual, they're surrounded by farms. You think that's not an agenda? You think the industry is not sadistic and twisted? The nuclear meltdown at Sellafield used to be called Windscale. They changed the name because of the meltdown. It was all contaminated. The milk, the chickens, the golf course, Sellafield. Britain's worst ever nuclear accident. No one was evacuated. No iodine pills were distributed. Work went on. Most people were not even told about the radioactive fallout. Rocky Flats. Man, what Rocky Flat done is disgusting. The FBI had to raid it to shut it down, which is absurd. Hanford, this is I'm going to call it a glassification facility. Now, I know I've been attacked for using that, right? Vitrification plant is what they call it, their official version of it. Well, my version is they're going to put nuclear waste in glass, and they say that's going to stop it from getting into the environment. But the Wigner effect will destroy glass, titanium, steel, whatever, in a lot quicker than titanium and steel, I should say. It's just a scam. And so this vitrification glass, we're going to encase nuclear sludge in 177 tanks in glass. Now the issue was that when you turn it on, you can never go inside the facility again. There was nobody going to be in the facility, except for the homeless that they'll send in who don't know any better for a day job. It's a 585 square mile nuclear waste site. But they dumped 1.4 million of these 300,000 gallon tanks into the soil of the sludge that was dehydrated. But they're saying we're going to clean it all up, and there's 177 tanks. But what about the other 1.4 million 300,000 gallon tanks they dumped into the soil during the Manhattan Project? It's the same material. It's just an evil industry that has no right to exist. They expected at least another $700 billion to clean up that site. They'll never clean it up. You can't clean up Hanford. You'll bankrupt the country. You still can't clean it up. Russia dumped 18,000 dumps in the Arctic. World Nuclear Day doesn't celebrate that. World Nuclear Day doesn't tell people about that. World Nuclear Day conveniently leaves that out of the equation. World Nuclear Day, and censor me, I don't even exist here. Well, I barely exist. I don't know, I've only been out of 24 years, but so they had 18,000 dumps 17,000 containers with radioactive waste. 17 ships and barges loaded with radioactive waste were also dumped there. 16 nuclear reactors were dumped. These evil doesn't come close to explaining what they done. It was all kept secret. Well, yeah. If that was kept secret, then what else is out there that we don't know about? The sunken nuclear submarine, COMSOLIT, and its effect on the environment. This is the science of total environment. This is an academic study that's peer-reviewed. And listen to this. This is a submarine. They went down to see how the integrity of the hull of the submarine, which is crushed, by the way. And he said it found that neither the submarine hull nor the reactor vessel will be destroyed by corrosion for at least 1,000 years. Like I have 14,000 hours on the ocean floor as a commercial diver. And there's no such thing as a ship that will not rust horrifically within a year or two, because the metal and the salt in the water creates a perfect electrolysis. I know. People like to find a flaw in me, right, and then use that to bludgeon me with or to ignore me, because they can find this little flaw, so therefore they'll fixate on that. I'll bring 1,000 points to the table each week, 1,000 important points. But if they can find a single flaw, they can justify subconsciously then to ignore me or attack me. That's what the nuclear industry will do to you a lot of the times, right there. But a lot of them, whatever works, I suppose, whatever blows your skirt up. I don't know how it works, though. How do you ignore all the facts? And they look for whatever flaw or whatever. Or if they can't find it, they'll just make it up and justify that. I've been attacked for so long by so many. I'm just grateful every day that I'm here. I don't know how long I'll be here. You need a lot of support to keep this whole operation moving. It's been a rough year for us. We lost my phone number, lost my web page that I've had for over 10 years. I just can't keep it up anymore. I can't keep up with all the expenses. And we only have, at best, a couple of people. And so there's nothing more important for me. I can't think of anything more important to do, right? And it's a very expensive thing to do, keep this whole operation moving. It's even in the basic forms, it's so consuming. So many things, right? You got to keep maintenance on everything, even though you might not get to use it. You still got to do all your maintenance. You still got to do all of that. It's just nuclear industry. Make sure they get you ostracized. So there's no foundation's going to fund me. It's never going to happen. Not for the research or anything else. There's no series network or no big radio stations are going to pick me up. I'm not going to be interviewed by any radio stations or any TVs or any medias. But I'm pretty freaking knowledgeable. I've done a lot, incredible amount of field studies and research expeditions and everything else. And try to provide the documentation for all of my information. I joke around a lot. I say a lot of goofy stuff just to keep a humor at it sometimes, which I probably shouldn't do, and it can be misconstrued, weaponized against me by the industry, of course. But mentally, it's a tough thing to do, these shows, right? Like, how do you argue when they say to you with an academic study, well, Dana, the nuclear submarine is not going to be destroyed by corrosion for at least 1,000 years? How do you argue with people when you got an academic study saying that? I got 14,000 hours on the ocean floor in absurd adverse conditions. the toughest job I think you can ever have as a commercial diver. I accelerated at it, and I'd done maintenance. I ran some of the biggest fleets, and I was out there 300 days a year. I was hardcore, and I got hurt. I ran myself into the ground, and the industry ran me into the ground. And so I always say to myself, if I can climb back out of the trenches from that nightmare, that disaster, and I have to work every day at it, and it's not that I'm healthy or something. I'm grateful I got injured, because I would never be doing this if I didn't get injured. I'm grateful. I'm so grateful that I have the ability to do this. I feel privileged every day, even though it's enormous amount of responsibility and work and concentrations and dedication. The nuclear industry is out there today spending tens of millions of dollars worldwide. Who knows what the old... I'd love to see what the ultimate tally is worldwide on the World Nuclear Day. They got their own page. They'll never have a problem paying that bill every year, rather. And they want only the best. They get the best medals, the best resources, the best students from the institutions, the best of everything. They still nothing but one total fucking clusterfuck the entire time. They're the most bizarre people you'll ever have a conversation with. If you sat down with somebody from the nuclear industry, you're sitting there having supper and they're at the next table to you and you start a conversation, you realize quite quickly they're very well groomed, they're very wealthy, they have everything, they look like they have the perfect life. But when you talk to these people, you say to yourself, wow, that is a weirdo. Hurry up, eat your shit, kids. We got to get out of here. It's bizarre, right? Most of these people go to universities and they don't leave. They get an education after education after degree after degree. And finally, the industry will see them and say they're so dysfunctional, but they're capable under the right conditions. Give them a great job, tons of money, put them on a pedestal, give them lots of awards for being evil. They don't know they're evil. The majority of them have no concept. They're just grateful they got a job, because otherwise they still be in universities getting degrees, because that's the only place they ever found. Like, they memorize the books, but they don't have common sense. They can't go out and make it on their own. And the industry loves these people. They're functional savants, so to speak. But how can you do a study? Like a nuclear course, let's say the submarine didn't sink, okay? Let's say they took it out of the water, it's on dry dock. It's not going to last for 1,000 years on dry dock. The Wigner effect from the reactor is going to destroy everything anyway, just a few years. But it's not going to last for 1,000 years in dry dock. So why would it last 1,000 years under enormous pressures on the ocean floor? How does that actually work? This paper discusses the possible release mechanism for radionuclides on board a sunken nuclear submarine. It found that neither the submarine hull nor the reactor vessel. So they don't come up with solutions. They just paint a really ugly lie, and they put that out there and end of conversation. That's the end of the conversation. Anybody brings up the conversation, they'll direct them to this abstract. This peer-reviewed study. But the environment doesn't work like that. The ocean doesn't work. The ocean don't give a fuck if you're a nuclear. It don't give a fuck. Go fuck yourselves. It's nuclear. Nope. Nuclear is different, Dana. Nuclear is not capable of being bad, Dana. Feds fear an EMP meltdown of nuclear power plants. So if you have a solar flare, the proper one from the sun, you can melt all the nuclear reactors at one time and the fuel pools. And goodbye right away to everything on the planet. Mortality among the U.S. military participants at 8 above-ground nuclear weapon test series. Kevin Blanch's father, died from that. They set off the nuclear weapon. They told his father and his comrades to get up and march towards ground zero. Don't stop till you get there and have a little look around, and then we'll go over and get some supper and some blood samples. So evil, right? This was human experiments. Shuttered San Onofre nuclear power plant spews liquid batches of radioactive effluences into the ocean. They do that all the time. It's constant. They can't contain it. At the site, the fuel pools are hemorrhaging 120,000 liters into the air every day. So when you take all the fuel finally out of the pool, they're ready to decommission the so-called pool. Yeah, hang on, Kevin.
Yeah.
I'll call you back. How about that?
Okay, bye.
Yeah, but I forgot that. I got to call Kevin back because his plan is not so good here in Canada for him. There we go. There we go. Oh, we'll do Kevin as a closer tonight too. It's 1:46 into the show. Hey, Kevin.
Yeah.
Hey, buddy.
Yeah. What? I had to drop those kids off. But anyway, what I wanted to tell people, a lot of people don't know this about me, that when Fukushima happened, I was working on a PhD, and I had funding, and my funding got pulled. My fellowship got pulled because of what I was doing. But
Yeah.
what I was doing the children of the atomic veterans.
Oh,
Which I'm
wow.
one of them. So my dad, of course, was a drafted Marine. He was a Air Blast 1. That was the very first battalion. But my uncle is a retired general in the Air Force, really high brass. His younger brother. Really high brass dude. And he had his own office at the Pentagon, blah, 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 blah. My dad was pretty Semper Fi, but when my dad died, and, healthy, never had a cavity, never had a cold in his life. The most healthy dude you ever saw, just mowed him down in the prime of his life. But I always knew it. I knew from the time I was a little kid that I was mutated from birth. So what I was working on was trying to prove what the children of those guys, because they came home, made kids,
Yeah,
their DNA was
and
altered.
you're one of them yourself, so.
Yeah, and when I was working on it, I wasn't. I hadn't had cancer yet when I was working on it. And so I was using government data that exists. I was using Freedom of Information data on the atomic veterans. But I remember when I was a kid, my doctor told me, because I was a sick kid, really. I had bad lungs, the whole thing. Had a heart murmur, blah, blah, blah. And my doctor told me, he says, Kevin, when I was about 12, 13, my uncle was a heart surgeon. My other uncle was a neurosurgeon. He told me, he says, Kevin, they're tracking every single doctor appointment, everything that you kids do via your father, the atomic veterans. And so what I was working on was trying to prove what rate of cancer do they get, the children.
Yeah.
And I got to the point where it was about 16 times higher than me. And that's when Fukushima happened. I just was fine-tuning it and getting it down pat.
Yeah.
But I got really good at FOIA documents and getting the data. And so it isn't like the data's not there. The data is there.
Yeah.
The government tracked the shit out of it. The government not only tracked all the atomic veterans, there was 40,000 of them, but they also tracked their children from birth. And there's all kinds of documents that prove it now. And so, and I'm living proof. I mean, the fact that I get it, and the fact that I did it during Fukushima, the fact that I go into a bone marrow transplant unit on 11/11/11, you cannot make this shit up.
No, that's for sure.
And so, but my dad's brothers and sisters, none of them cancer. They all lived to be very, very old. He was the healthiest one of them all. And he told me before he died that when they got him in Air Blast 1, they had him combat ready for Korea. They were on boats. And they turned around in the middle of the night and drove him into the United test site from Siemens Energy from Camp Pendleton. A lot of people don't know that Siemens Energy, the nuclear reactors, is on Camp Pendleton property. And it's owned by the Marines, the property.
Yeah, I was going to say that's military for people who aren't familiar. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. And so Camp Pendleton is the Marine base in San Diego. And so that's where he's at. They drove him into the Nevada test site. He was the very first group. He said when he got out there, they had prisoners in cages, and naked in cages. And he said they put them right at the fucking blast. He says, they told us to put our hands over our face, and he says, I could see my bones through them on the hands. And then, right after because they knocked him out, and when they came to, and it's been verified now, they fed him LSD to alter their memories. So he was missing for about 3-4 months. My grandma thought that he'd been probably killed in action in Korea. She had a lot of connections. She tracked it down, but he said he woke up months later in a hospital in San Diego. And, and then they discharged him. But my uncle, who was a really phenomenal athlete, played in the NFL, a lot of different stuff, the one that was at the Pentagon, and he's just an incredible athlete. He said, your dad was faster and stronger than me till he came back from the Marines. He said he was never the same.
Wow.
And so I'm living proof that and so it's unarguable, and people deny it, that this nuclear fallout from not just the bombs from nuclear reactors doesn't just kill you, it affects your offspring, it affects your kids.
Oh,
forever.
yeah. No, people don't realize. That's a great point, by the way. And for people people that don't understand that, Nagasaki, Hiroshima, they built the cities back on the nuclear bomb craters, and to this day, they still study the victims, the generations of them.
In Japan, I used to work before Fukushima happened. I worked with a lot of really strong anti-nuclear and research people in Japan. And so a lot of my Mikado, who is the heir to the Japanese royal family, I went to college with. And I'm still friends with him to this day. When Fukushima happened, they fled to Argentina. They're still there. And so, but there's lots of work that's been done over there for years in the United States government, who controls Japan. A lot of people don't realize that Japan is still totally 100% controlled by the United States.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
They also by the Sea Agreement.
Oh, yeah, big time.
A lot of people don't get this, that incident of leukemia over there is off the hook. And to this day.
Well,
you know what they call it in Japan?
What?
You know what they call leukemia? They call it the atom bomb disease.
Yeah. Well,
So,
there's
if anybody-
865,000 extra cancers in the first year in Japan after Fukushima. Go ahead, Kevin.
So a lot of people don't realize this. So Folding the 1,000 Paper Cranes, of course, is Sudoku, the famous book.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. She was 11 years
About
old.
the victims, that's right.
Yeah, and she was 11. It was 11 years. She was born. She was a baby when Hiroshima and Nagasaki happened. So she developed cancer at 11 years old. And the famous book, and then she got leukemia. She folded 1,000 paper cranes. She got to 524 when she died.
Wow.
Well, her great niece reached out to me in 2017. She's a famous celebrity in Japan, and because I'm connected with the Enola Gay Hanger here in Utah,
Okay.
with Jim Peterson. They reached out to me and says, "Could you set it up? Let's do a ceremony." And so they reached out, and I said, "Yeah." So Jim reached out. We put it all together. We sent emails to all media, everybody, local politicians. So they came and presented a real paper crane. I got to hold it. I was the second guy that got to hold it. She hugged me, just cried, gave me a fan. Well, this was when I really realized how bad Utah was, because we invited every media outlet here. None of them showed up. The governor didn't show up. The lieutenant governor, the senators, none of them showed up. Media from all over the world was there. I mean, all over the world. But local media, and it's in Utah, none of them showed up. Not a one. And I'm like,
that's not an
accident. More of
accident.
the cover-up.
That's not an accident.
No, it just shows you how the nuclear cartel and the cover-up is so vast.
They've captured all the media and all the universities. In order for them to tell the lies they're telling, they have to have captured all the media, all the universities.
Well, they got it all. So I have
There's
a
no
friend
dissenting voices. Go ahead.
I have a friend that I went to college with that ran the news desk at KSL. So after Fukushima happened, I used to call her and talk to her, and I used to be on KSL. I used to be the guy on TV before Fukushima happened. She told me to my face, and then I have another friend on the San Onofre who worked at Channel 10 in L.A., and they both told me. She's the news desk. She's the main producer. The number one, she says, they got not only emails, they got visited and told they were not to mention Fukushima. No how, nowhere. No. I said, what?
Oh,
They put a gun to your head?
Yeah. No, 100% is crazy.
And they did it to local media, mass media, print media. They went to them all.
We actually, yeah, I have
They
a lot of
couldn't
those.
speak
I have a lot of those stories from back in the day of that happening. Right? Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, so it's very real. The cover up.
Yeah,
This is
it's
the
100%
greatest cover. And they started covering up. I mean, we still, to this day, we have still not seen the footage from Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the real raw footage.
The color
that the United
footage.
States has.
They took all the color.
Even the black and white.
The color footage was.
They have it.
Yeah, you remember the story about the color footage?
Yeah.
There's a few documentaries. Buddy finally spoke out about it, where he said, "No, we had color footage. I was there shooting the color footage." And he said, "Why didn't we get to see that?" And because that would have blown people's mind, right?
Right. To this day, we still haven't seen it. So the 75th anniversary of the bomb, I was out there at the hangar, and I remember I did a bunch of videos at the hangar, but that Russia put out some footage on the 75th. They had. But people, to this day,
don't
we
understand.
haven't even seen we're talking 80 years. We still haven't heard Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and they still keep up. The cancer rates in Hiroshima and Nagasaki are so covered up in Japan, it's unbelievable, just like they are in Chernobyl and Ukraine.
Yeah.
So this cover-up's been going from day one, from August 6th,
yeah, it has so.
1945.
It has so, yeah. It's crazy.
So we should be surprised, actually. I mean, I really was when Fukushima happened. They can't cover this up. But you think about it, they're so vast, they got so much money. The Manhattan Project opened the spigot to endless sums of money, and they never shut it off. So all this nuclear propaganda, the easiest way to get rich in the country is through government taxpayer nuclear port.
It is so.
It always has been.
It's incredible. I had one guy. He was he hated me, but he was pretending he was anti-nuclear. But it turns out he finally told me he was pro-nuclear, and he thought it was a piece of shit. But that took a few months of him playing his game with me. But he was telling me about his garage he has at his property there. He had 26 cars, muscle cars, in his garage. And every time he phoned me up, he would tell me about one of his cars, right? And tell me how he's just... and he played this game with me where he pretended he was anti-nuclear and that he was going to support me. And then finally, a couple of months later, he said, "Why would I want to support you? You're a piece of shit," he said. And then I realized he was with the small modular reactor. I had come out and rallied against him, his company, and he took it personal, right? And he came after me, and he played this game.
Well, a lot of those guys that came to us early in the days gave us money, promised us money, ended up all being shielded. I know that's for a fact, including Palco, including, he worked for Energy Solutions.
Yeah, that's right.
And then same with Ackerman's attorneys at Oak Ridge, Tennessee. So it was all set up. A lot of the people that befriended us and whatever, and I know this for a fact now, that's how they play. Now they call it honeypots. I had two really good-looking, sexy girls hanging around with me. One of them I was even sleeping with, and I'm like, she says, "How come you get up and leave the room after?" I said, "I'm afraid you're going to slit my throat." And anyway, as time went on, over the time, sure as shit, she spilled the beans. And she was leaving an Oxbox granddaughter. I says, "That's the nuclear physicist." "Yeah, I was a Sendai." And she was a Sendai freaking labber at Los Alamos.
Yeah, nuclear is MK Ultra, right?
Yeah, I'm like, girl, and I was hanging with her for, in 2015, 16, 17, 18, she planned she was the anti-nuclear. She wasn't anti-nuclear. She was trying to set me up.
Yep.
Same with the chick that stole my radio show, and crash it. That was all a setup, but that's what they do.
It was looking for useful stuff they can weaponize against you.
That's what they do.
Yeah.
The same thing, the Epstein list, same thing.
They're just unbelievable. They're just cold, man. They don't have a human emotion in them whatsoever.
If you think about it, you're standing up against the nuclear energy, the greatest event in human history, Fukushima, and we can't get any traction.
Oh, I knew when I went public a long time ago that I was going to get the shit kicked out of me all the time from here on out. I only done it because I felt the subject was so important that I needed that extra credibility, right? That no more hiding away, right? Every time, announce my name, here's my phone number, stuff like that. I knew that it was going to be a rough ride for the rest of my life, and boy, I wasn't wrong. I tell you that. Holy shit! Have they ever
Yeah.
done the number
we-
on me?
we-
I don't
we'd
regret.
never
I don't
believe
regret
how
it. I don't.
ruthless.
Yeah, I don't
No, me
regret
either.
it.
You know, I've been at it my whole life, so I've
Yeah,
always known
yeah, that's
how
right.
they play.
No,
But
100%.
we always had advocates. There was a lot of good anti-nukers
Yeah.
around. There were a lot of strong ones when I was young. But now that after Fukushima happened, you know, there was quite a few people that took it on, and you know, they all faded. I mean, I talked to Ratchet recently, you know, and she's still alive. And of course, remember Miss Milky the Clown? What a phony fraud she was. Ackerman,
Yeah.
a fraud. McCormick, all those guys, that whole Clan Palco, the whole crew of them that pretended they were at night, that none of them were. You know, it was all a setup. And so,
Yeah, Mrs. Milky used to take your videos and my videos and put them in with Arnie Gunderson, and
yeah.
right, and mix it together, and I fucking hated it.
So I've got some. I got to tell you a story about Gunderson. I've never told this before.
Okay,
So
sweet.
Arnie Gunderson. I've always known he worked for the nuclear industry. Him and Maggie, his wife, I always knew they were shills.
Make
So
yeah.
I introduced Jan, Miss Milky the Clown, and Ratchet. He said they didn't even know each other, and they only lived 5 miles away from each other in Michigan.
Oh,
I
wow.
hooked them up. So I hook them up, and so they go to the library there in Michigan, one of the universities, and they're doing research on anti-nuclearism. Ratchet's all in, blah, 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 blah. Believe it or not, they get some message that Arnie Gunderson is going to speak at that university. So they show up. They, you know,
I actually
researching-
I remember that actually because I was talking to both of them, Rad Chick and Miss
Yeah.
Milky. Yeah.
And so,
Jan.
anyway, they show up, and anyway, Ratchet showed me these incredible documents they found of Fermat's, really scathing stuff in the library. They do research and dug it out. And Gunderson just happened to show up. They run into him in the library. And I'm like, what are you doing in the library? This is in 2015, I believe. And she's like, oh, okay. And he says, look what we found, she told him. And he's like, can I have it? No, you can't have it. And anyway, so he's trying to talk him into giving it. So Ratchet was paranoid about the guy anyway. So she followed him. She followed him, and she got back behind him, and he got on his phone, and she recorded the phone call. And he was talking to some the people in the nuclear industry, in the DOE. And she says, and I says, well, I told you he was a rat. And so, and same with
Yeah, well,
Helen.
his wife-
I got so many stories on Caldecott, too. Caldecott's husband called me one day on the phone, Helen's husband.
They were
And,
divorced,
you
weren't they? Or- Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Helen Caldecott's husband called me on the phone one day and says, Kevin, this is many years ago, and says, you know, Helen's nothing but a secondhand movie star. She's not anti-nuclear. She works for the industry.
She does so.
And
Yeah.
I says, I know that. I knew
Yeah.
that long before Fukushima happened.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Sure. Yeah.
And then Busby wrote a song about me. Busby was going after me when I was in critical condition. So
I fucking
knew
hate
those
Busby.
people were.
I hate
Me
him.
too.
Yeah.
Me too. He went after me, physically
Fucking piece of
attacked me
shit, boy.
when I was in critical condition in the bone marrow transplant center in
Yeah,
2011.
it figures. It makes sense.
And my uncle, who's an old guy, who's the famous ex-NFL player, the Air Force, the high brass at the Pentagon, he found out about it. He says, I'm going to get on a plane. I'm going to kick his fucking ass. And I'm like, don't do it. He says, no. He says, I'm older than he is.
Yeah.
He was so pissed off about it. But the bottom line is, when it happened, I already knew all those people were shills. I knew they were phonies. Gunderson was in my sight every day, saying, oh, no, the hydrogen blast. And I knew Gunderson from long before Fukushima happened.
Yeah, he made the assemblies for the fuel racks, or the racks for the fuel assemblies for the fuel pools, and 70
Well, and then
identical reactors as Japan.
Well, you know what his wife did for years?
She was a public spokesperson for the nuclear industry.
Yeah, she was the PR
For
for
at least
the
2 decades
NRE.
anyway. Yeah.
And
Wow.
another thing I'll tell you guys, a lot of people don't know this. ENA News.
Yep.
Remember what great work she did? You know who that is?
No.
You know, I used to work with her. She lived in Florida. And so, but she died.
Who was it?
So it was this woman, and she used to go by, she would never really give me her real name,
Sure.
but I knew her and I worked with her, but she worked for the NEI. So you know about
Nuclear Energy
she called her
Institute. Yeah.
E&E News.
Right.
You know what that is? Which you see them pop up all the time. That's why she calls herself E&E News. So E&E News is the branch of the Department of Energy, which is the propaganda machine you pay for taxes. That's a pay-for-play media outlet. That's who she used to work for. That's why she had so much good stuff.
I was going to say that makes sense. It had to be an insider. It had to be, right? I knew that.
Yeah, she registered.
A stenographer or something. It had to be an insider. Go ahead, Kevin.
she was a nuclear physicist that worked inside there.
Which makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, and big time, but she passed away. And she was older. She died. And then the other one, of course, Lauren Monet, she was the real thing, but she went paranoid at the end of her life. You know, but
she was, She was awesome, boy.
Yeah.
I loved that lady. She was fantastic. Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah. So the real anti-nukers, you're never going to get any traction. Never have. The fake ones do.
Oh yeah, they got 1,000 public relation firms shoving them out immediately. So, right, they'll show up even if they're just morons. They'll show up everywhere, and somebody will like them everywhere, right? And that's a bit of a following.
Well, they had them all in line, lined up to go as soon as Fukushima happened, and they paraded one out of another on the media, on television.
Oh man.
They were all there. I know Chris Busby. Chris Busby, that piece of shit.
Yeah, I was going to say
Lake Barrett. So
that
I know
fucking
Lake
piece of shit. That scumbag, that degenerate piece of shit, man.
Oh, he's the worst. So Lake Barrett, get this. So Lake Barrett, who ran the cleanup of 3 Mile Island and got fired and
Ernie,
run
wasn't
off to prison. Yeah. So Lake Barrett's in charge of the cover up and cleanup of Fukushima.
That's right. Yeah, he was brought in.
He still is.
He was Department of Energy.
He has it the whole time.
Yeah.
So Mark, who's a friend of mine in Florida, was his maintenance guy in Florida.
Wow.
So one day, Mark calls me on the phone. This is like 2014. And he says, "Hey, Kevin, I'm putting some hurricane shutters on Lake Barrett's house right now." And he says, "I got Lake right here. You want to talk to him?" I said, "Yeah." Put him on the phone. And he says, "Run in there." And so you could hear him. He says, "Lake, this is Kevin Blanche. Kevin Blanche says these are full-blown out nuclear meltdowns that are pouring into the Pacific Ocean. They're poisoning the fucking planet. And Kevin never got a handle on it." And Lake's, "Oh, hi, Kevin." I'm like, "What's going on?" Blah, blah. And we're talking. And you know what Lake said?
Right.
"Well, Kevin Blanche is right. Every word he ever said, he's right." And so Mark says, "Well, that's not what you said on TV, Lake."
No, man. I got clips of Lake Barrett that are fucking disgusting. Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, you know what Lake said when Mark said that to him? Well, because first off, Mark said to him, "Kevin Blanche is either meltdown or no, we're on a three-way phone call." And he says, "Well, Kevin Blanche is right. Everything Kevin Blanche has ever said is right. Day one. This is full-blown, never happened before. This is clear in the early days." And Mark said to him, "Well, that's not what you said on TV, Lake." You know what Lake said? "Well, I had to tell him something." And I says,
he's paid to lie. Like I got.
Oh, he admits it. He admits it.
Like when he was up on Bloomberg, the lies he was telling that original first couple of weeks was horrific.
Oh, boy.
Oh, but plutonium, he said, "Well, that's just salacious. That it doesn't mean nothing, right?" And I was like, "You dirty." Anyway,
he was just flying through his teeth.
It's that time of the night, Kevin. 10 after.
All right,
My show usually ends at 2 hours. Thanks a lot, buddy. We'll talk to you next time. Okay, buddy. Yeah.
Thanks, Dana.
Kevin Blanche. Take care, folks. Yeah, bye-bye. That's Kevin Blanche. Kevin's probably the most well-known, if you look at all the activists across the United States, right, they've all met Kevin. Kevin showed up everywhere. Even if he was by himself, he was there protesting. Alrighty, let me see what we got here. There's a couple of great calls. You got cut off over and over last night, so at least we got some decent time there tonight. Some decent time there tonight. And La 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 la. Da, 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 da. Just a reminder for new people that comes through the site here, and anybody else, I guess. That's not what we wanted. This is my humble site on Dana. Where am I to? I'm here somewhere. So if you click, you're watching the video now. The 6th annual World Nuclear Energy Day is being celebrated worldwide. And that's the video. We're live streaming there right now. Hi, everybody. If you go underneath it and click it, and you scroll down past all the descriptions, you see the best anti-nuclear music site on the planet. You see links to 4 million emails. There were some of them redacted, but from Fukushima. Why would you have 4 million emails if nothing happened at Fukushima, right? And you can donate, or you can buy stuff at my store, my nuclear store, or you can donate at PayPal. That's directly to me. And everything helps. Everything adds up. And it's a thankless job, but we still have to keep doing it, and we still have to fund it, and we still have to grow, try to grow, and we still have to try to pay the bills, which is now what I'm stuck with because they destroyed me. And should the 7th annual World Nuclear Energy Day be celebrated with Nuremberg? 2 nuclear crimes trials. And we got skunked again tonight. How many views we got? We got 60 views. So they hate my guts, eh? I can't blame them. If I was a coward pro-nuclear scumbag, I'd censor me too, right? And so last night's video got dismal views. Deadly Fukushima prefectures, we got like 120 views. These are numbers you can't even imagine even a year ago. Why are whales stranding more emaciated each year post-Fukushima? That's a super important story. And similar stories, to bring that all together, you go to my playlist, you'll see mass species die-off. Click on view full playlist. There's over 50 videos. And if you go watch some of these videos, I'm going to provide you with all the documentation of why Fukushima is behind those recent mass species die-offs. It's a very painstaking process to do all of that. And it's what we do here. We try to bring reality. Yeah, give us a thumbs up if you make it this far. We're going to close her out with one of James Lucid's songs. And I'll tell you what that is here in a minute. We started off with one of his songs. I don't think I put a link in the description, so let me put a link in the description to James's site. This man has 470 songs on his site. And we're going to play one of the songs from his site. I got already on my computer tonight. So just so you can find his site later. James Lucid. And he's been stuck at 12,500 subscribers for a few weeks now, or a month or so. Looks like the industry hates music. We don't. So the song we played at the beginning of the show tonight was called Rolling Stewardship Blues. And because Kevin, and tonight is about corruption and about evil industry, we're going to play Atomic Corruption for a closer tonight. And we went a little over our regular limits. My apologies to everybody. I'll see everybody on the next show. I'm not sure if I'll show up tomorrow night. If I can, I will. Tomorrow's going to be a tough day. Yesterday and the day was brutal. And we're trying to survive here right now. The weather's just nasty. We'll catch everybody on the next show. Have a great night. Hugs for everybody. Have a great day tomorrow. Take care, folks.
Built the plant in 53, Pike and Portsmouth DOE. U-235 in the groundwater chain. Heavy metals drift with rain. They cracked the pipes, they dropped the shell. Still denied what tests could tell. Open air, no tent in place. Children sick, no public trace. Atomic corruption, filed it safe, never discussed. Paper trail burned to dust. You won't find what you won't trust. Atomic corruption, carried down the river bend. Across the state, you can't pretend this don't poison in the end. Kids with cancer, no cause named. Dust in schools they never claimed. No swab, no test, no agency. Just buried deep bureaucracy. They said too costly to contain, but built a dud dump across the drain. Green up CO2, same report filed. The fish are gone, blame climate change. Atomic corruption, stamped and sealed, they walked away. Still the isotopes don't stray. Bound air, not bound to say. Atomic corruption, they marked 5 counties in the plan. Laughed at Kentucky's open land. Told us hillbillies won't understand. Technetium track 14 miles. Same as plant, same toxic file. Lawrence Livermore drew the lines, but DOE said never mind. Births malformed, no press release. No study done, no state police. The river holds what they won't name. Atomic corruption, open air across the fields. Science told them never healed, but profit hides what power shields. Atomic corruption, it don't fade, it won't forgive. Still inside the lives we live. This is not a claim. Atomic corruption is